rooms, the silent forests, and the places where something unseen still lingers. This is DarkWoods Paranormal. Of course, I am your humble host, Gabriel Von Graves. And tonight, I would like to welcome once again into the darkness alongside me, Raven Knight. Welcome, Raven. How you doing today?
I'm wonderful. Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
Fantastic. She's also a researcher and a fearless leader. Isn't that right?
I'll take that. I'll take all of
Awesome.
that. Thank you.
You're
Yes.
welcome. Well, together through Unbox Media, we bring you stories, interviews, investigations, and encounters where history and mystery collide. Tonight's episode also made possible by those who support independent creators like ourselves, our listeners, our viewers, and our value sponsors who help keep the lantern lit. We thank our sponsors. Thank you very much, guys. And all of us stand with DarkWoods Paranormal. For those joining us for the first time, DarkWoods Paranormal was built on a simple belief that every shadow is empty, every voice is not imagination. Not every chilling feeling comes with reason. Some places remember, some moments remain, and some people walk away changed forever. Tonight, we welcome a man whose life has carried him into scenes of tragedy, loss, chaos, and moments where death stood only inches away. Joining us is Michael John Angus. Michael is a firefighter, paranormal researcher, filmmaker, author, and speaker. And a damn good one, to my knowledge. His career has placed him in high risk emergencies, major incidents, and the emotional aftermath of human suffering. But through those experiences, he began asking a haunted question. When a person stands too often besides death, does something follow them home? Can trauma leave more than scars? Can repeated contact with the final moments leave a mark? That question becomes the fundamentation of work known as the Mark of the Dead. Tonight, we step into that discussion, a conversation where science, trauma, memory, and the paranormal meet in the dark. So lower those lights, listen closely, and keep an open mind because sometimes those stories that disturb us the most are the ones that happen exactly as told. So welcome to Darkwoods Paranormal. Michael, welcome once again. We're absolutely tickled to have you here, sir. Why don't you tell our viewers a little bit about you if they don't already know?
Hey, thanks for having me on.
Yeah.
Hey, that was a great intro. I mean, that
Oh,
was that was
thanks.
probably better than what I wrote or Chat GPT
Oh,
wrote about me. I'm like, I need to record this, right?
yeah.
No,
Well,
but thank
I'll
you
I'll
very
send
much.
it to you. Yeah.
I was gonna say you could use it later.
We'll give
Yeah.
you royalties for it, right? You're right.
Right. Right.
No, thanks for having me on.
Yeah.
Where are you guys at again?
Wisconsin.
Wisconsin. Okay,
Yeah.
yeah. I seen a Central Time when you sent me the link for the show tonight, so I figured you were somewhere over there. But that's cool. Yeah, I'm on the East Coast. For those who don't know me, my name's Michael John Angus. He did quite the introduction about me, so I don't know if there's much left to say. But I'm glad to be on and glad to spread the word and what I'm into now and the research that I'm doing. You know, not just the spooky stuff. You know, the other stuff that's attached to my job, my work, and
Mhm.
that led me to the spooky stuff. But yeah, I do love to go out and publicly speak, just not on spooky things too. A lot on my job, my end. I've been a career firefighter for a very long time. Started as a young volunteer, and I always tell people this. I actually got my EMT when I was 16 years old.
Oh,
It was one
wow.
of my first jobs, and I lived in Pennsylvania. And my mother actually went to EMT school with me, so she had to go to
Mm,
so I could get it. But yeah,
How
so
cool is
that's
that,
really
man?
cool.
yeah,
That's
right.
really
Not to
cool.
here's a teenager with his mom in EMT school. You know what I mean?
Right. Right.
But yeah, I was thankful. It's always something that I wanted to do my entire life, and that was one of my first jobs. I mean, I was running an ambulance. You know, not too many 16-year-olds are sitting in the back of an
No.
ambulance running your grandma to the hospital or cardiac arrest and all that kind of crazy thing.
Right.
To think now what I was doing then or in into then, it just blows my mind. You know, it has gone so fast, but the situations I've been in and stuff that I've dealt with, it's like seems like an eternity ago, but not. I guess you know it's the '80s and stuff, and the '90s. It's like, oh, that was just the other day. It's like, no, that was
Right.
40 years ago. But anyway, so um, yeah, it led me into being a career fire. Like I said, I started as a volunteer, and then I end up being in a career fire service for a very long time. And I didn't realize, of course, I shouldn't say I didn't realize. I knew dealing with the dead over a period of time, there may be obviously consequences to it, but I didn't realize the paranormal side of that.
Right.
You know, having interactions and being on that side of death where, unfortunately, sometimes I'm the last person they see or interact with before they pass to
Absolutely.
wherever they go and or end up. So yeah, it took a long time, and actually I lived in Pennsylvania a long time, worked many different places, but I ended up moving to Georgia in 2018, and that's where it all connected. I didn't realize it till then, if that makes sense. I met a friend of mine. He is a career firefighter also, and I work part-time in the city, and he works there full-time. And he said, hey, you want to go out sometime? We watch ghost shows. You know, I watched, even before this, you know, all the old G stuff, Paranormal State, all that
Oh,
kind of
sure.
stuff. That was in
Yeah.
State
Yep.
College. You know, I lived in Altoona, near Altoona, so all those, you know,
Oh, wow.
Heather County, all them were, yeah, were
Wow.
just down the road when Paranormal State, all that was on. Katrina, Chip, all those, Michelle.
Yeah.
So I mean, I just didn't put the dots together, connect the dots. So met Matt down there. We would watch ghost shows, and we'd go out and like go to graveyards and all that kind of stuff.
For
You know,
sure.
yeah, it finally dawned on me. You know, I'm like, well, shit, all these situations I was in, all these feelings I had, all this energy that I was feeling, and people were trying to tell me something. So, you know, and then it started to come together. We'd go out and do these investigations. We were getting these responses. They were like saying our name, saying this, bringing up situations that happened in the past. And I'm like, this is kind of weird. You know what I mean? Like, how do they know all this kind of thing? You know, because TV's one thing, but then when you're actually doing it and
Right.
communicating. So that led me down a path of my career and careers like mine being exposed to those situations over a repeated amount of time. So taking, you know, their soul was transformed into something different, but that energy, I think, takes some of our, not takes our soul, but I guess it leaves an imprint on our soul per
Oh,
se.
absolutely.
And that's what I talked about, the mark of the dead, you know, and I just, not to jump over the place, but that's going to be, I had a small article published on that, but then I'm going to have a article next month come out in a journal. It's actually been published on that study that I've been doing and continue to do. So I'm excited, really excited about that. I'll have it posted on my website and stuff like that, where people, and it's going to be in a huge journal of other people that have been published their studies. So it's just not me, you know what I mean? Look what I did. It's actually, there'll be other great articles in there, people that put blood, sweat, and tears into this. So, but yeah, that comes out next month. I got the email on that the other day, so I'm very excited about that. That was at a symposium in Gettysburg that I did last year. Yeah. It wasn't just all spooky stuff. It was like more scientific, if you can be scientific.
Right.
In that. So yeah, so that led me to do more research, and I still continue to do that. You know, I talk to guys all the time. I've talked to guys in the fire service, and they tell me stories. Everybody's got a story for me now. Once they know that I do this, they come up to me and they're like, hey, one time, hey, this time. I had a guy the other day talking to me for like 2 hours because as a child, he grew up in a haunted, his house was haunted.
Right.
And he just continuously had his whole career. And he was like a prime example of it. And that mark continued on him throughout his career, still to this day, that once they know that you know, then it's like, oh, okay, I get this. You know what I mean? Like, you're very recognizable. So
We get that a lot, actually. You know, like just being people always are coming up to us and telling us their stories once they find out that we talk about paranormal stuff. They're like, oh wait, we have a story for you. And it's crazy.
Always, right? Yeah,
Yeah, all the time.
we're all empaths. We all feel each other's feelings, of course. You know, I'm on scene of a call, and a grieving mother or a sick child and stuff like. You know, we all feel that energy. And people, I try to explain it like, how can you put that down? It's like, well, it's like if you ever go into a place where someone just had like an argument, and then you come to that room right after that you can still feel that supercharged energy, the tension. So it's
Right.
similar to that, I guess, you know, if that would make sense. I
It
know I've been
most certainly
rambling on.
does.
Do you have any questions or anything?
Yeah,
I've been
absolutely. No, you're doing great. So, my thought to kind of back up you being a career firefighter, which thank you again. I appreciate that, man. That's awesome. I think people's misconception, you just don't show up and put out fires. I think you have to be kind of a grieving counselor because people are coming up to you, you know, asking questions. And as you were talking, that's an element that I think I never really thought of. And I think our
right.
audience probably, there's a lot of people that didn't think of that either. So
Mm-mm.
before we get into the paranormal element in the
Yeah.
mark, which I believe highly in, um, what what does it take? It's got to take an emotional roller coaster for you as you're, you know, you're there saving lives or trying, and then you're putting out fires and you have people coming up to you and trying to understand this. What tactics do you use when you have somebody that just went through something horrible? What do you say to them?
Yeah, I mean that's what I try to tell people, like herding cats, or you know, I can organize chaos at a fast pace, if that makes sense.
Right.
Like you have to be very witty or quick with decisions, because a decision that I make, right or wrong, especially wrong, could impact or take somebody's life.
Right.
Like if I'm on a scene where we're doing a rescue, every decision that I put, like a chess game that I do, has a positive and negative impact. There's a repercussion. There's a reaction. You know, we used to teach that in fire school. Everything you do has a negative and positive reaction. Something's going to happen.
Absolutely.
That's scientific. You know,
Hmm.
and you know it's intense. Like, you know, we're doing a high angle rescue with rope. It's like literally somebody's hanging there.
Hmm.
Like we have to get this person down, and it's like everything that I'm thinking or decision I make will impact that person's life. But
Right.
yeah, I mean, it, it's like anything else. You know, sometimes I go through a mix of emotions. Sometimes I'm obviously, we're all empathetic, of course, you know,
Sure.
because I've lost people in my life that
Hmm.
I've loved dearly, and um, so you try to be as empathetic as you can and be professional as you can. You know, that sometimes it just sucks
Yeah.
to be in that situation. You know what I mean? But you got to be strong. You got to be professional and do your job. And it's funny you bring that up, because for years, you know, we're always taught, man, you're a man. You're a firefighter. Get over it. Go back to the
Right.
station. Tomorrow's another day. Tomorrow's another call. You
Hmm.
know, a half hour later is another call. Just don't worry about it. You'll be fine. And I tell you what, man, that'll eat you up fast.
Oh,
People don't
sure.
realize that, you know, years and years of that trauma and seeing that kind of stuff. And if you don't have an outlet to it, it's going to lead to addiction. It's going to lead to bad things.
Right.
But yeah, yeah, we try to be strong and supportive. As yeah, it's just like you said, we're not all running in fires and saving babies and saving cats from trees and
Cats for
all this
trees.
kind
I
of
was
stuff.
just gonna ask
Yeah.
that.
I know. Did you ever see a skeleton of a cat in a tree? No. All right, it's gonna
No,
come
no,
out.
never,
You know,
never.
that's what I tell people. But you gotta be nice. You know, you are a servant of the community.
Right.
There's times, you know, 3 o'clock in the morning, someone has this or something wrong. Like, what did you wait to call now? Why didn't you call 3 hours ago?
Right.
Or why
Right.
didn't you call at 10 o'clock? But I get it. Shit happens. You know, it is what it
Right.
is. So,
The natural
it,
gas line breaks and they wait 3 hours.
yeah.
I would just been like, "Hey, listen." You're like, "Get out of the house," you know?
But it does take a special person. You have to be, and I think that's what really plays off into the paranormal side of it
Sure.
too. So you're on that level, that energy level, that empathetic level of him being an empath, I guess, to a point. But yeah, you got to put yourself in that position. You know, there's when you see me, you're probably having your last day or a shitty day if I'm
Right.
at your house. So I try to think of that. You know, I mean, I want somebody coming to my house. You know, my dad was killed in an automobile accident.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, nothing you can do, and it was just one of those things where it's like, I hope, you know, that people that were there that were like me, and I'm sure,
Yeah.
you know, that showed some empathy and care, and that's I've always tried to. I'm not saying I'm always Mr. Pleasant. Trust me, you can ask my wife; she'll tell you that's not always the case. And we are like that. We're human beings, so it is what it is. But yeah, it's more than just putting on a gear and posing for a calendar. It's
So
That helps too.
were you prepared for the emotional baggage, for lack of a better term, that you will bring?
no,
I mean, do they teach you that, or
no.
no, you just you learn that? Sure.
You learn that. They don't teach
Right.
you that stuff.
Right.
No.
They tell you how to teach how to take away a fire, but they probably don't teach you how to
Like,
console
it's
somebody.
gotten better.
Yeah.
Sure.
As time has gone on with suicide rates,
Psychology.
addictions, so stuff has gotten better. I think they finally recognized, like, hey, man, I don't work in the busiest department, but could you imagine New York City, Chicago,
Yeah.
where it's just shit. Detroit,
Yeah.
the
Mhm.
stuff that
Thank
those
you.
guys see every day,
Yeah.
every day, every day. It's and that just you can only take so much of that. Your
Right.
Yeah.
your brain can only absorb and process that much stuff, and it so just one of those things where I think it has gotten better, and I'm trying to make it better my end. You know what I mean? At least get out and talk to people, and
Right.
if they listen to me, if not, then hopefully someday, maybe if one person listens to me, it's worth it. But yeah, it has gotten better for sure.
I think it's super cool that you actually went to EMT school with your mom. That's
Yeah,
cool,
that is
man.
cool.
No,
That's
Don't
because you have
tell
a
super cool.
nobody
study
my
partner
secrets.
there. I love that.
Yeah, I'm thankful. I am
Yeah.
thankful. Yeah.
Right. That's
Yeah.
very cool. Not
Well,
not
then
everybody
you're
can say that.
16. I was
no,
16.
Right.
that's really
Right.
cool.
Right.
Yeah.
That's awesome, man.
There's something else that you said, and I just want to elaborate on that, like
Sure.
empathy and how important empathy is. Empathy is not something that can be taught either. It's
Yeah.
something either you have or you really don't have.
This is true.
So, like certain situations, people might not be the best fit for a job like that because they just cannot
Right.
relate with other people and be there for them. So just kudos to you for being able to do that
Right.
and to be able to step in and be, the person that you are. Because when we had actually talked to his name is Chris, but he was a mortician, and it was the same thing. We didn't realize how much empathy actually came with that kind of job too,
Right.
where he had to
Awful,
go in and talk to the family members.
Yeah.
awful
And
job.
Yeah.
right, yeah, and it's something that you don't think of when
Uh,
you're when you're just not in that field. So
Yeah, I
kudos
can't
to you.
imagine. I
Yeah,
can't imagine. I mean, my job, I appreciate you. Thank you. My job's good and bad, but I can't imagine that every day or every week you're dealing with a
Yeah.
family that just lost the monarch of the family, their loved
Right.
one. I mean,
Mhm.
I can't even imagine. Like, I'd be a mess. You know
Yep.
what I mean? There's no
Absolutely.
way. I mean, the
yeah,
bodies would bother me and all that kind of stuff, but that energy
Right.
constantly
yes,
exposed to that. I mean, that's like, yeah, I don't know. A friend of mine went to high school with actually, when dad died, actually took care of him. So I was thankful that,
yeah,
I went to high school with his, I call him a kid. He's not, he's a man, but to me, he's a kid because he was my friend in high school. But,
Right.
I even asked him, like, I don't know, he's since then retired, but I'm like, I don't know how you do that every day. Like how do you distance yourself? And I guess I'm in the same boat. I don't know, but that's
I think
rough.
the trick is to continue doing it and not become numb to it, because just like, when people, you go to banks and people are dealing with money, how dirty money is, and you see them grabbing candy and throwing in their mouth,
Yeah.
they lose that aspect, that sensitivity, that,
Yeah.
that's just been somebody just snorted cocaine off of some hooker's, thigh with that thing, right? I'm just saying it's dirty, but dealing with people, I would say it's easy to fall in that same kind of mind frame where it's just, well, it's just
Yeah.
another body. And I
Yeah.
think the workout mentally would be to keep in mind that, this is somebody loved this person. This
Sure.
person had family. So
hmm
Right.
I think that would be taxing as well. But
Right.
being an EMT and being around death, I know I've been around death, and I think for me, even around an animal that you had to put to sleep, you
yeah,
can literally feel the energy leave that
Oh,
body,
100%.
and it's a special thing and a sad thing at the same time. I mean, it's unfortunately it's something that we'll all have to make that journey alone. but it's always nice that you have somebody there that you may not even know, but somebody there that's comforting you as that process is happening.
Yeah.
So that's got to be taxing as well, my brother.
Yeah, for sure. I always said my wife's an RN and has been around this stuff too, but we always said, when you're born, endorphins are released as an infant, and the same thing as when you die, you have that rush. But before all this kind of stuff, and I've seen it several times, she's probably seen it more than me, just because she works more of a controlled environment. She sees the loved ones that are in hospice care that are dying talking to their relatives.
Yeah.
Yes.
They're coming to get them. And I've seen this, and she's seen it more than I have. But so I think that's, there's always that they're coming to them, I guess.
Right.
That makes sense. However that works.
Absolutely. And I think it's a good thing that something, whatever that is coming to comfort somebody right before, because you don't have to make that. I mean, you make that journey yourself, but there's somebody there waiting for you. And I think that's a special aspect of it.
Mine may have a pitchfork.
Well, at least there's somebody, at least there's somebody there.
Yeah,
He's like, hey,
it'll be warm, right?
Right. He's like, it's going to be so warm. You're going to love it.
You're going to love it. Get your Speedo,
right?
No, seriously. Yeah. I mean, I think it happens too, on a scene when someone passes, you can feel it there too. I mean, I've unfortunately worked with people or I've been on scenes with people that I've known that, have been dead in front of me, or dying. So, but it's just one of those things where I'm like, and that's another thing that I've been trying to work on. It's so super tough to not to get off track of this, but a part of my research is I want to do, I call it relatively dead, or recently dead, whatever, is do an interaction with somebody that has just passed there. And record conversation and ask questions. So the other night I had almost an opportunity to do that, and I didn't get a chance to. But it's hard to do this. It's like, again, hey, I know your loved one just passed, but here, let me run this tape recorder and ask a bunch of questions. So the etiquette with that too, and it's not so much that I try to exploit somebody's family member or loved one. I just want to try to see if that communication. The biggest thing is if that communication is stronger, then the presence is stronger, or it fades.
Oh yeah.
Or you know what I mean? That just to try to get like that, where feel, I guess. But eventually, I'm working on some leads to try to get out and do this more. But
I think that's cool. I think that's a area of study that not a lot of people have tried. So
No.
for you to even think in that direction, I think that's awesome.
Yeah,
I think so too. And imagine, like you're saying, like the energy. We all know that a lot of this stuff is energy,
so strong.
Right? It would be so strong then. That would be the best time to do it.
And it's not that I want to say, hey, I'm sorry you died, or are you glad you died? Nothing stupid, obviously.
Right.
But I'm sure there's people that would do it. I mean, people donate their body to science and all this other stuff. So it's like, why not? So it's an avenue that I'm exploring. It's just hard to get that connection to allow.
It is. Well, and that
but
kind
anyway.
That kind of brings me to another way of thinking. Now, I've lived in a haunted house that somebody has passed, and they decided not to leave. What is it, do you think, about an environment that a person chooses to hang on to after the body leaves?
Yeah. Again, a lot of stuff that I do a lot of ITC work and a lot of research with that. But that's like a whole different separate thing. It's like, I'll sit at my house and do a lot of research, ITC stuff. And I know I'm not talking to anybody that's in my house. I understand that. But to answer your question, it's like, I don't know if it's like a purgatory. If you have that choice, whether to stay or to go, if you haven't completed task or whatever, there's so many theories that go to that.
Sure.
I don't know if it's just the energy, the residual energy that keeps people that can't figure out to come and go. And we talk a little bit about this because a lot of times when we do a lot of ITC work, you get help, and you get those kind of responses. So I'm thinking a lot of times, like, a person that told me too, it's like they're almost like in a purgatory, in a place where they're like sort of just floating. They can't figure out where to go. And I think maybe that's part of that too, is they get stuck in a certain frame of, I don't want to say time, or whatever level that they're at and or place. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So
Yeah.
I wonder. So the house that comes to me was in
uh-huh.
Elmwood, Wisconsin. We lived in a house that had paranormal activity. It had, a couple fields away. It had a famous UFO landing, which they actually celebrate UFO days in that place.
Oh, that's cool.
And there was a little boy that, at least presented himself as a little boy. I want to say that, that would want to interact with toys. And my wife saw him a couple times, and I've seen him a couple times. And as a parent, you gotta, I think it breaks the heart a little bit, because here's this child that seemed to kind of go in and out of reality in a way, and
Mm.
he was never happy. You could always tell that he was scared. So
Mm-hmm.
I would think that's whatever kept him there at that spot. As a parent, you look at this little boy and you kind of feel for him. And how do you even help a soul that doesn't understand the situation he's
Yeah,
in?
like a
You know,
child.
yeah, a child, and I think that's the sadder part when it's a child. I mean, we've been to mines, Raven and I, that have collapsed, and you can hear grown men's voices, "Help me," stuff like that, and that's heart wrenching as well. But when it's a child stuck in an
Yeah,
element that he doesn't understand, I always think that kind of levels, adds a little layer to the scariness, because it's a child, and
right.
also your heart breaks for this child, and you
Sure.
can't help him.
There's nothing you can
Mm.
do at
No.
this level. There's nothing we can do to really help as far as that goes.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
so
Go ahead.
where was your first paranormal experience? Because everybody starts somewhere. Mine was when I was a little boy. I grew up in a haunted house, just like your friend, right?
Right.
But how did yours start? What was the first time you're like, what is that? I want to know
Yeah,
about that.
I think a lot of it started for me. A younger age, I really didn't hear or see too much. And
Hmm.
then as I got into fire service, I was getting like these, like we had one I can remember clearly. Well, I don't know. It was more. I guess it was paranormal. But it was more that I would see flashes. Like there's an overpass that was for
Mm.
trains. Well, it had closed, and they made like a rails to trails type thing. If that made sense, so you could like
Mm-hmm.
walk it like rails to trails. But then you could drive your vehicle up there, like supposedly you were allowed to. I don't know. But anyways, it was high, so it was winter, and this Jeep Wrangler flipped off that. It was probably 40 feet in the air and
Oh
hit the
wow.
ground on its roof.
Mm.
The driver was there, but the girl was serious enough injured where she was in agonal respiration. She was dying. So
Mm.
we're arriving on the scene, and we're doing all this stuff and helping her, and I'm seeing all these flashes, and she's like staring at me, as I'm into my eyes, and it's like, and I mean, unfortunately, I don't know if a lot of people know this, but we talked about that energy. You can feel that,
Hmm.
and it's the same thing when someone's dying. Like I can go into a room and I know
Mm-hmm.
that we got to get going now, and or they're gonna die. Like like I've told people that in a good way. It's like if you don't go with me, I can guarantee you're gonna die
Hmm.
Mm.
because of the situation you're in.
Right.
And I know the end result of this is going to be your death.
Hmm.
And a day or two later, we go back, then they're cardiac arrest. But yeah, that was the biggest one for me, was that Jeep, that connection with that lady, and it would. This went on for a long time throughout my career. I would get these. I don't know. Maybe it's just my brain playing tricks on me. I could see the things playing out in my head before it happened. Like
Hmm.
I could see this, and this it would have these connections. I didn't think too much about it. And then I lived in a home. I rented a house that was haunted by an old lady that pestered my now wife, but never really pestered me. But like that. What I mean? Like I've always, that was my biggest thing, was that first call. But then renting homes and living in the Northeast, ran a lot of paranormal stuff. I never
Mm.
really got too many like interactions on. Nothing really stands out like on a scene or anything as far as like a fire, or been in and seen like a ghost, run across the hall or anything like
Hmm.
that. Because you got to take your senses are super focused. We know we're very hyper focused when we're doing our job.
Sure.
So I'm not thinking that sense of what the hell was that, or did you hear that? You know what I mean? I can't. First of all, I can't see most of the time, and then the sound. You know, you just it doesn't compute in your brain. You know, I'm not
Sure.
in that mindset. But yeah, that was my biggest thing that led me down that path of that interaction. One of the biggest things for me, I was on the school shooting at Penn State in 1996.
Mm.
Yeah. Killed one girl, shot her in the back, and then shot another guy in the abdomen. I actually transported the shooter to the hospital.
Wow.
Stabbed herself in the leg. For all you men out there that are married, women stab down. That's just an FYI. So if you have to block anything, women stab down. But she went to stab. One of the guy was trying to stop her, and she stabbed herself in the leg, and he actually put a tourniquet on, saved her life. But
Oh, wow.
yeah, that was in '96 on the Hub lawn. Yeah.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah, I took her to the hospital. She was face down on the cot. Then police were asking her questions, but yeah, and I actually put her beside him in the ER, like the guy she shot. And that was kind of weird, but hey,
So,
whatever.
I mean, what? So, I mean,
You talk
what do
about
you say?
energy,
Yeah, you
Yeah, I
look
was gonna
over, you're
say,
like, hey,
woo.
you just stabbed me. You know, what do
right?
you say?
Yeah, I mean, the energy, any emotion you can think of was there that day.
I
Yeah,
believe that.
From sadness, from pain to being
right,
happy because they weren't shot. I mean,
right.
it was just everywhere. So, yeah. Yeah,
That's great.
I don't know. Yeah, she never admitted it as far as I know. You know, that case is closed now, so I can talk
Right.
a little bit about it. But yeah,
I
This
think,
makes me
that
curious,
would
though. Like,
probably go ahead, Raven. I'm sorry.
go ahead.
well, just thinking about empathy again. Like, if we talk about that, the energy reading, and then you just basically said like some of the stuff that you could feel before it happened or sense before it happened. We get that a lot with mediums. Do
Sure.
you do you did you ever see yourself as a medium, or do you think
No.
this is something this has actually happened as you've been in the field, you've learned to read emotions? Because in your job you have to be very hyper
Well,
vigilant of what's going
makes
on and
sense.
be very
Yeah.
aware. Do you
Yeah.
think that you just kind of created yourself to
Yeah.
be able to do
Do
this,
that.
if
Yeah.
that makes
That
sense?
makes sense. Yeah. Yeah. Being exposed to that, for so long, you get to learn, and like a good police investigator, they learn techniques, eye movement, that kind of stuff. So I guess it would play out the same way with the energy and emotions. Someone's state and what's going to usually happen at that state or could happen off from a
Right.
person. So eventually going through that over time, that would make sense. Yeah.
Interesting.
I like
Yeah.
it. So, what have you ever been in a situation? And this is my more curiosity that
No, sure. Ask
you
away.
just got done. Somebody just got done committed just a horrible crime, and you have to save this person. I mean, how do you keep your emotion from like this is a body, I gotta save it, versus going, you dumbass, you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
little
I've
squeeze
had
here, I'm just saying,
just like her, you know what I mean? Same
right,
thing. It's one of those things where
right,
if I have people shot, stabbed, vehicle accidents, they injured somebody and now they're
yeah,
unconscious
drunk,
or
yeah,
drunk. And yeah, it just you're sworn to serve and protect, and that's what I got to do. Is that's part of my job, is and I've seen it. I've seen police shoot somebody, and then we immediately start performing first aid and
hmm
life-saving techniques to them, because that's the humanity part of it.
Mm.
And I'm sure there's people out there that would disagree with me, obviously,
right.
that may be a little harder than me, but yeah, I don't know.
I
It's
would
one of
think
those
that's
things
an
where
element that they probably don't prepare you for either, is
no,
having
no,
to
no,
save a
that's not.
life of somebody that probably didn't deserve,
Or
you
yeah,
know?
or try to take your life,
Right,
right?
right,
I
yeah,
mean, police
right,
officers obviously would see it more than me. Hats off to them. I
yeah,
would
Yeah.
never do that.
absolutely.
I mean, that's bulwark there. But yeah,
So being around that much death, you mentioned the market, and I want you to give away the
yeah.
whole thing because I want people to be
Read the
excited and,
article.
yeah,
Yes,
exactly.
please.
So can you tell us a little bit about the mark? Because we kind of live by the premise. I've had a lot of near death experiences, motorcycle accident. I fell into a river when it was frozen, and all this stuff. And I think the more true death experiences you have, I think it opens a doorway.
Yeah, you're
I,
onto
I
it.
and you're kind of half in, half out, where
Yeah,
you're very they smell it. right? You had
Yeah.
this stink on you, is what I say.
It's true. No, it's true. That's
Yeah.
the mark. You
So
were
tell us
marked.
about a little bit, Mark, without giving away
Yeah, I don't
the
get too much
grand
away,
finale.
but yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
it's along that lines where it's like I tell people that work around radioactive stuff,
Right.
radiation, take
Right.
pictures, right? They wear the meters because it's time weight average. You
Right.
can be only exposed to so much for a long time
Right.
until it's affecting you. So
Yep.
the same thing, you're constantly exposed. If where the shooting was high energy exposure, that happens not a lot,
Mm-hmm.
or I run a lot of vehicle accidents, which happens, a lot, or happens a lot over a lot of time, many times,
Mm-hmm.
where the other stuff doesn't. So it's
Mhm.
different energy types. And I think, like you're saying, the situations you've been in, or like that, where you're exposed to this, you're marked.
Right.
You're around the death where someone passes in front of you and they're communicating with you before they die. And that energy is attached somehow, some way to us. And
Mm-hmm.
then, and I find out, with communications, they're very recognizable, I think, because of that. So yeah, not to give
Do
too
you
much away,
do you
but
think
yeah.
that you
Interesting.
absorb some of that energy as it
Oh, for
transfers out?
sure. For
Yeah.
sure.
Right.
Yeah.
Do
Doesn't,
you think that, some people believe, we've had a lot of people in and talk about death. Do you think a door opens that allows me to go to heaven or hell, and or a portal? Have you ever felt a situation like that, or do you think it just, as the energy leaves the body, it dissipates in all kinds of different directions? A lot like the lights you were seeing, all over the place.
yeah. I don't know. I can never get anybody to tell me, on the other side, like, what the hell? You tell me help and call me names and swear at me and say all this bad stuff about me, and it's like,
Right.
tell me something that I can use.
Right.
But
Right.
yeah, do you know what I mean? Like, you're yipping and yapping and telling me stuff. But I, I talked to a friend of mine, Michael Perry, him and Marty and Mike. I don't know if you know them or not. She draws. He's
Hmm.
a psychic medium.
Yep.
Great
Oh,
people.
okay.
Hmm.
I was very fortunate to work with him for a long time. He's like, he believes, and there's other states of this too. The levels. Okay, there's 6 or 7 levels that we're on, and this level we're on now. You can either go up or you're gonna go down. So,
Hmm.
and of course, purgatory. You're stuck in there.
Right.
Yeah, I think you whatever it is, however we operate, you just go to that other level or being.
Hmm.
And when, like, I talk about doing a lot of the ITC work, the communications and frequencies that I use to communicate, the audible frequencies at least, somehow they're similar on that side as ours.
Hmm.
And we're lucky to get that communication, that harmonization of the frequencies from this side to that side. But the soul, for some reason, there's a block. And when that block happens between the levels, for some reason, I obviously that's what we're all after. We don't understand why.
Right.
You
And
know, how can you hear me or know this, but you
Hmm.
can't tell me how to get there or why? Or,
Right.
I mean, I know how to get there, but what you see there and
mhm.
that kind of stuff. But
Hmm.
yeah, I
Detail.
don't know.
Yeah.
I think you just go to that next level, whether it's up or down. That depends
Right.
on
Yeah.
what you do at this level, right? So
Do you
So
think part of that is because they can't tell us? Like, they can't tell us why or what or any of those things. Like, that's why they never answer those questions because
I
they're
don't
not
know.
allowed to tell us that.
maybe, I don't know. I just a lady told me one time her theory on it. I completely forget it right now, but why they can't tell us. I mean, why? Where are you at? What do you see?
Right.
Now
Yeah.
I've had instances where we've asked questions to an Estes and had somebody else somewhere else. And we had the person that was under the experiment say a certain word. But prior to that, we were asking, can you hear and see us and all that kind of stuff? Downstairs at this place, a lady comes upstairs and comes into the room, and this girl says this word. And this lady about passed out
Wow.
because the word was Capricorn. For no reason, this girl just says Capricorn. The lady that come up from downstairs says, "What did she just say?" I said, Capricorn. How weird. You know what I mean? What's that even mean? downstairs they were talking with my friend Josh Purvis about investigating Capricorn records in Macon, Georgia, downstairs. Prior to that, I asked, can you hear and see us? She says Capricorn. I'm like, well, there's your answer. They were downstairs, right? Does that make sense? Yeah.
So maybe it's a different premise of communication. Maybe, you know, there's a different way that you communicate once you pass, and they're trying their best to understand what we're trying to say in us receiving what they're saying.
And I think in our brains, we're trying to normalize that.
Yeah, right.
This, and it's not. Whatever that is, you know, is not. Like my dad will come through. We're like random. But it's like, tell me something. You know, I mean, I'm glad you say I love you. I'm glad you say my name, but it's like, tell me something that I could use. This is your time to work with me, but it doesn't happen for some reason. I don't know. And I continue to try different things, different ways of that. But unfortunately, I think the only way we'll ever know is
when we pass.
Yeah.
So if I go before you, come see me. I'll remember this and give you good EVPs.
Oh, thank you.
I love that. Listen, we'll make this a thing.
Come to the funeral, right?
We're all in agreement.
On that subject, what is the most haunted location you've ever been to, and what made it the most haunted location?
Yeah, we're talking. Someone at work at court. Everybody asks you this kind of stuff, right? Once they find out you do spooky stuff. Yeah. Like you do it too every day. You're dealing with all these dead people. Probably Yorktown Hospital was probably in the top 5. I don't know if you've ever been to Yorktown Hospital in Texas. Oh my God. Like it's in the middle of nowhere in Texas. Yorktown. Okay. And it was built by nuns and priests. And a friend of mine owned it, Joan Riviera. I think the Curiosity Twins own it now. Two great guys in Texas. They do the Black Swan Inn, and I think they built Yorktown Hospital. Great guys. Run a good show. But we went there to film Paranormal, first episode. And that place was like, it was like a tsunami, thunder, lightning. So the caretaker, the guy comes in, let us in, and he's telling us all this story. And he's just kind of like says his opinion about some things and then leaves. And then this place just erupted. It got to the point where like we're gonna call the police because we thought there were squatters in there. People were just screaming. There was just shadow figures, stuff being thrown, slammed. Like it's giving me chills just now talking about. Like we were like in a panic. This place was just like I said, so we went out. I come back in and like walked. I'm like, listen, we're gonna do a complete reset here. Went outside, got grounded, come in, and I just, gave a speech. We all just said, hey, this is what we're doing. If you want to communicate. If not, you do you. We'll do us. Stay away. Blah blah blah. And then from that point on, it seemed to basically reset. But yeah, that Bobby Mackey's was the energy of Bobby Mackey.
Yeah,
you were at Bobby Mackey before they tore it down, huh?
Yeah, I was fortunate to go there and film, and then the energy. Everybody's like, I know what you're saying, and spooky and scary, but to me, I think it's a lot of times like just the vibes and the energy of places.
Right.
People. Ronnie D owns Harem Hospital and Old South Pittsburgh Hospital. They're always active places, and places like that. So yeah, I think Yorktown was probably one of the most scariest. Crescent Sanatorium in Crescent, PA. It's like 20 some buildings, and it was like they just would open it up not too long before we got there to do night investigation. That place was like they literally locked the gate. The state didn't left. So you go to you know what I mean? Oh yeah, that place was like it messed up your cell phones. It was like it was pretty crazy. So yeah, there's a few that I've been in. I think the energy's been like pretty high.
So we say that places that kind of before like for Sally House, and I hate always bringing up Sally House on this program.
Never been there.
No. So the first day we were there, I personally had dreams before I got there, and something continued communicating with me well after. I'm like, even up
Oh,
to a
Mhm.
month.
really?
And the people I was with, the group we were with, a couple of them had the same dreams I did, where they were actually having nightmares of waking up still in this house. And even though Sally House, I think, the second time we were there, nothing happened. But I think a lot of that is energy people bring in. You get these
Yeah.
paranormal people that come in and try to stir all this stuff up, and trying to bring
Mhm.
in, demons or whatever they're doing. But
Right.
have you been to a location that was more emotional, where it followed you and it drained you well after you left the
Really
facility?
Yeah.
question.
Yeah, that's a good question. Sure as you know, Texas, and
Mm,
Dan LaFarve and owned a hotel. I always get it mixed up. The Park Hotel in Texas, Jersey near Texas.
okay.
So I was there and was invited to an event, and it was a 2 night investigation. So the first night we went, it was I mean, it was sort of quiet. I was excited though because the first time really I got to investigate something that wasn't like Civil War old. Like this was
Right.
more like cowboys, and
Right.
that kind of, so I was excited about that. Like never really investigated because it had cowboys, and there were some famous people, some famous bad cowboys that were there back in the day, Johnny Ringo and all that kind of stuff.
Oh,
So
okay.
the second night, I hooked up with Chris Moon and D Moon and a couple other people. We did like a seance. We had some ITC stuff up that our friends built. So we sort of built like a small portal with them and tune them in about the same frequencies or same speeds. And we did like a seance. And Chris is better at better. Chris has been around a long time. Chris Moon, he's better at this stuff than I am as far as the seance and stuff like that. So, but whoever he was talking to, whatever come through, was like we're just like circling us in this room.
Oh, wow.
The energy, like you could feel the wind. If that makes sense.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
My heart rate was like 170 some beats per minute. Like no, for real, it was like intense.
Wow.
Right.
Yeah, he ended up shutting it down because it just
Yeah.
got to the point where it was like
Too
I don't know
much.
what was there or what he did, but that energy was like
Mhm.
so intense for me that yeah, yeah. Like I even videoed it. I think I went TikTok live or something, and the video is terrible. Like it's just like
Sure.
didn't record right. You know what I mean?
Right.
It was crap. Yeah, but yeah. I don't want to say Park Hotels. It's probably not right, and I don't know why I forget the name of it. I
Oh,
think
that's all right.
they recently sold it to somebody else, but it's still there. I think
Um,
it's been on a numerous shows. It's not
Right.
nothing new, but yeah, it's the energy there was a lot different.
What
oh,
my premise is, I think the human body is the best instrument you can go with, because we're built hardwired somehow,
Mhm.
fight or flight. What is the best instrument that you've used that you think you've gotten the best results from?
Yeah, I just was at the Cajun Country Paracon in Louisiana this past weekend, and
Okay.
actually I did a short speech on ITC. So I'm a big
Okay.
communication guy because like now, right? What are we doing? We're talking.
Communicating. Yeah.
We're all
yeah.
communicating, right?
Right.
That's the biggest thing. We all want a voice. We all want to be heard. We all want to
Right.
continue to communicate. So to me, and I know when I work with Dave and Shane and Josh and all them guys, we preach the communication, communication, communication. So we do a lot of simple ITC stuff. I get a lot of stuff built. Austin Maynard builds a lot of stuff for me. Jay Prather has built some stuff for me. Custom stuff that I have some mass produced stuff, which works fine.
Right.
Again, it's not so much about the devices, the frequencies that we're trying to
Hmm.
Right.
line up, right? So yeah, to me, it's communication. Like I have all the gadgets and stick
Sure.
figure things, and a lot of people like that kind of stuff. I try, in the fire service, especially hazmat, we try to verify things with 3 different resources, if that makes
Right.
sense. Like if you
Absolutely.
have a
Check and
chemical,
balances. Yep.
right, you need
Redundancies.
to have
Yep.
right. So and the same thing when I do the paranormal, we try to take different devices to try to line everything up to make a correlation to make it something out of it and just
Hmm.
help me and all this other stuff. So but yeah, the biggest thing is EVPs or ITC work. I'm big on communication.
Have you ever studied it with like old ways of recording, like old tape? I mean, I wonder if, because we all have cell phones, we all have the digital stuff. I wonder if we're able to capture more with the
Yeah,
old stuff,
I think analog, you
Yeah.
know if you
Right.
take away all the filters, like the high pass filters,
Right.
stuff like that from the new stuff. Yeah. I mean, this goes back a long way. From even a lot of the German scientists were getting. That's how a lot of these things come about, is because they were spying, listening to frequencies. NASA
Right.
still listens to frequencies. We have satellites that
Sure.
listen to frequencies, audible frequencies, to try to. So yeah, I think a lot of the older stuff that doesn't cancel out, that doesn't have the high pass filter, or
Right.
doesn't condense down. I think, and I actually thought about that. I have a device that's actually built out of a CB, and I really haven't played, and it's really cool. And I really haven't played with a lot, so I really want to try that. But yeah, I think the older, maybe the better, just because of, it's going to be raw.
Yeah,
absolutely.
You're not
Right.
getting that dial. Yeah, the phones are one thing. I think phones are bad for it, just
Right.
because. Yeah,
I-
old
I've,
school, right?
yeah, I've also noticed, speaking of old school, in my personal experience, the energy ghosts, whatever you want to call them,
Mm-hmm.
when it comes to the older parts of the state, are different than if they are up here in the north. There's a different feeling of the paranormal in the southern states. They feel more comfortable, and because I think they're older, so, and then when I had experiences up closer to like Minnesota, Wisconsin, the feeling of the newer states are different. It's more of unknowing. In the south, it's more of a comforting, where you see the ghost, you feel the ghost, at least in my situation, but it wasn't as scary. It was more that they are familiar with it versus the northern area. Have you ever had
Hmm.
any experiences like that?
Like, you mean the person or the spirits?
The spirits,
Oh,
because to me, they just feel like they've been dead longer. So
this is true
no,
too.
and
Northeast,
you
South,
don't
yeah.
hear
I
a lot
mean,
about hauntings about the newer people that pass, but the
yeah.
older people seem to be more interactive, and the older entities that have been dead
Oh.
for much longer, I've felt more comforting of, they're just there, right? They've been okay with you. And then up north, some of the spirits that I've interacted with, it's because it's a newer part of the states. They're a little bit more, this is my territory, stay away.
New generation of this spooks,
Absolutely.
scary stuff.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe. I don't know. I never.
Well,
Go ahead.
yeah, I was gonna say, the theory is, I've heard this before, and the theory is that older spirits, sometimes it takes longer for that energy to build. And we know that
Right.
spirits can
True.
draw from energy, and maybe the older spirits have just been able to finally
Figure it out.
communicate, or finally pick up on what they need to do to communicate with us. Where like newer spirits, it takes a long time for them to figure out how to do that.
It
Yeah,
could be generational too. It's in South, they accept,
yeah.
death and different than they do in the North.
Yes, that could be
I
true
don't know.
too.
I think the biggest thing I ever see is if I go somewhere that hasn't really been investigated, it's harder,
Right.
to build that communication where,
Right.
like you're saying, you Trans Allegheny, you go somewhere that they have,
Yeah.
investigations daily,
Right.
Hmm.
as compared to, like you're saying, somewhere up your way that just recently closed, or a hospital that recently
Right.
closed. Yeah, that could be
Huh. Where do
interesting.
Oh,
people
interesting.
what other topics would you like to cover? We covered so much. I love it.
I
We didn't talk
know.
about
You're very good.
Bigfoot
We're
at
all
all.
over the place, man. I love
Yeah,
that.
I know.
You didn't do your
Like a
Bigfoot thing
squirrel.
with him.
Oh. Oh, yeah. Okay.
And I
So
heard so we were talking before this. You guys are coming to Gettysburg this year, so
we are.
Yes.
So
I'm
yeah,
how
super
do you stand
excited.
Gettysburg
on the
Patch.
how do you stand on the Bigfoot? I'm not a big Bigfoot guy. I'm not saying that it doesn't exist. I'm just saying that, to
He
me,
flip
they're
flops.
so commercialized that when
He
things
flip
become
flops.
commercialized, I think it takes away from the realness of it.
He is interdimensional, right?
Okay,
Yeah,
okay, okay.
he can go between the levels, so that's why he's not always seen. She's not always seen. They're not
And
always
they
seen.
disappear quickly.
Yeah, because they can do that somehow, some way. Go
What
through
are
this.
they, do you think? Other than interdimensional, are they shapeshifters? Are they half man? What
It's
are
like a
they?
shapeshifter spirit, maybe. Does
Oh,
that make
okay,
sense? Like,
okay.
what I mean? Like a dead shapeshifter. Like, yeah, the
Wait, that's a new
Wendigo.
theory.
We just were in Louisiana, and they talked about the. I can't remember the name of it now. They're gonna kill me. I just was on the swamp tour, and they talked about this monster that lives in Louisiana.
When I saw your
Sure.
pictures too, and I can't even think of what it was.
Yeah, it
I
was.
did see your picture.
I don't know what it was called, but same thing. I think they're interdimensional, if there's such a
Sure.
thing. I think Bigfoot is.
How do you stand about the aliens? You ever been out and you've noticed things or been in the
Yeah,
area?
I've seen stuff in the sky. I don't know whether it's satellites or Starlink,
Right.
but I mean, you never know. We'd go camping up in the mountains. You'd sit there and watch the skies in the summertime, and you'd see stuff. Go real fast. I don't know. It's one of those things where like you hear so many theories on. It's like it could be, but then you hear some of these theories. It's like we're seeing stuff that's already happened. Millions of years ago. We're just seeing it now because it takes that long for light to carry. So really, is this something that's happening now? Is this something we're seeing that happened before? I've never, had really any interactions with any type of spaceships or anything like that.
Well,
I
you're a
don't.
fascinating man. How do people find you? How do
You're
people
so
find your
Easy.
work and all that?
I made it easy for everybody. So you
Easy's
just
good.
www.michaeljohnangus.com.
Oh,
It's easy as that. There it
Look at
is.
the
easy
simplicity
peasy.
of that.
You get that or
I
my
love that.
link tree. It's
Yeah.
all on my social medias. It'll lead you to everywhere that I could possibly be.
And
So
you do
where are you
so
going
much.
in the
You
future
do
so
so
people
much.
can come and see
Yeah.
you?
Oh yeah, potographs this weekend. Tim was just on your show.
Yes, Tim
Yeah.
was and
Okay.
his wife. Yep, they were just
I'll
on.
be up there. I'm going to have to help them out with the whole thing, and
Tell them we
then
said hi.
I will for
Yeah.
sure.
Actually, we should just go.
Yeah,
We should
come
just
on,
go.
Just
come
go.
on.
Let's go. We got
And
nothing else
then
going on. Let's go.
some projects that are coming up that unfortunately I can't speak about. But
Sure.
I will be on the other side of the country helping film some productions.
Oh, very
Okay.
cool.
So yes, there's some new stuff coming out that everybody's gonna be excited about, but it'll be released soon. And then that's May, of course, the Bash in July. Oh, Booze on the Battleship. That's my
Oh,
next
Oh,
event
yeah.
after
Okay.
Potographs. Yes, in Wilmington, North Carolina. Tamerlane Media. Katie McVeigh runs that. It's
oh,
the
that's
second.
very
Love it.
cool.
Yes, it's on a battleship, right?
That's cool.
Paracon on a battleship. Yeah.
Yes.
So she did last year. I was there a couple of times prior to that, but then she put this Paracon together and did last year, and we're doing it again this year. So it is neat. It is neat. It really is.
We got to get on that if they still have
Yeah, we
it.
do.
come
I mean,
on,
I've
that's
seen
it.
the ads all over the place. They do a
Yeah.
wonderful job promoting that
Oh,
one,
yeah.
but we'll
Yes.
have to eventually get there too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I have stuff throughout the summer, and then the Bash and some other things in the fall. But we're trying. I have some searcher events with Josh and Shane. I mean, Deadwood. Some cool places I haven't been, so I'm sort of excited about that.
Well, we're excited to see your ventures. I want to thank you
Yeah.
again, Michael, for being
Thank
here.
you.
Thank you for joining us tonight. Thank you for your service, for your
Of
courage,
course.
and for sharing experiences that many carry in silence. Your story reminds us that some wounds are visible and some carried in places no one else can see. To everyone who joined us live tonight and to those listening afterwards, thank you for spending part of your night with us here at DarkWoods Paranormal. To our loyal supporters, our growing audience, our valued sponsors, and our partners at Unbox Media, thank you for helping independent voices continue to be heard. And to my co-host, producer, and Michael again, thank you very much for being here. Mike, you want to just hang on a little bit longer? To
Sure.
everybody, stay curious, stay aware, and do be safe out there. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, everybody.